So I'm inking up my brayer with some water-soluble printing ink. This is like really thick black acrylic. It's like sludge. And then I'm transferring the ink to my stamp. And I can already see that now that I've switched to a slightly thicker ink, there are some places that I need to cut away a little deeper. But I'm going to keep going and do this test print real quick. I'm just throwing down an index card. And there's that line that I showed you earlier where there's some sort of weird crease in the rubber or something. I don't know what it is. So I'm kind of running my finger over that, hoping that I'll make contact and I won't end up with a big stripe up my print. And I don't have a second brayer, so I'm using a glass bottle as my second brayer, just to make sure that I get contact everywhere. And now let's see what we've got. Ooh, so I'm having some trouble with this ink, getting a clean print along the edges. And there's some places I want to smooth out, like right here and right here. And I kind of want to get rid of this and all of these little things. And this. And then there's a bunch of stuff in the middle of the flowers that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to clean up and do a little more cutting and then come back and try and do another test print. Try to figure out why I'm getting this sort of uneven printing along the edges. Okay, so I've done a little tweaking and now I'm going to try and do some prints. This is Speedball block printing ink. It's really thick. It's almost like a solid. It's so thick. And I'm just using a paper plate and my brayer to spread a nice square of ink. Doesn't take very much, but you sort of want to get, see these little peaks in the ink and on my brayer? That's sort of what I'm aiming for. It'll give me a nice spread of ink without being too inky. And got my card that I'm going to print on and my stamp. So I'm just going to ink all the way to the edge in this direction. And I'm kind of looking at it in the light, making sure that the whole design is shiny. Any dull spots would be where it's not inked already. And instead of putting the card onto the stamp, I'm going to switch it up and put the stamp onto the card. So this ink is so thick that it almost acts like a glue, and my card is really stuck to this stamp. And instead of rolling, this is normally you would use something called a batten to do this. It's a round thing that's flat and it has a handle on it, and I don't own one. So this is a very smooth metal container, and I'm just using it as a batten in a circular motion to make sure that all the areas are pressed against the stamp. And I'm paying particular attention here to that area where my stamp has a sort of crease in it. And there's my print. Now this is where that crease is, heating and doing a little painting like that. But so far I've done 3 prints and they all look pretty good. They're not perfect, but you know, this is block printing and a hand carved stamp, so I'm not aiming for perfection. And now I'm just going to let these dry, and then I'm thinking I might come back and do some color work on the banner and on the heart. While these are drying, I'm just going to do a few touch-ups, and one of the things I'm doing to all of these is filling in the very end, because my stamp was just a little bit smaller than my 4x6 index cards, and rather than trying to cut these down to size after I printed, it's easier to just fill in that little bit. And since these are very hand printed looking and very uneven, the unevenness of this filling in part fits right in. And occasionally I'm sliding a little extra in to fill in some places where the print wasn't quite perfect, and it gets that little sort of ripply look, like right here. A little bit too much white showing through. I'm just covering all my sins with a little bit of leftover ink while these dry. And that looks much better.